Hey, good morning there. Oh boy, hold on a minute. Okay, is that better? Let me know if you guys hear feedback. If you do, I'll turn it off. So, anyway, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is, let's throw that up on the screen. Where is my captions? Oh man, I was all ready for today and now it's all out of sorts. That's all right. We're going to start over. Ready? All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. I, of course, with Hammer Solutions here with your daily mortgage rate update. The only place on the web where anybody ever hops on and just chats with you about what's going on with rates and pricing each and every day. A lot to talk about today. Today is Fed Day. We're going to have the Fed meeting conclusion. They'll come out with the Fed policy statement. The question is, will they or won't they raise rates? Spoiler, they won't. However, Fed Chair Jerome Powell's press conference, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Everybody's going to have their eyes on good old Jerome. He's going to be disappointing Trump, pissing him off because he's not going to say that the Fed is going to be cutting rates, and we will see what happens. But I don't think today is going to be a great day for mortgage rates and rate sheets pricing. However, we do want to cautiously float as we head into the day, so we'll talk about that. So if you're here this morning, say good morning, my friends. And remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, playing with the tech stack this morning. I've got the phone camera, which it looks like the quality is actually pretty good. Let me know, what's the quality like, the video quality here. And we got the Pooter, and then we've got the iPad. Kind of messing around to see what this all works like. So that's the hotel view. It's really not that impressive. So we're not going to peel back the curtains. It's another rainy, bleh kind of day. I am in Nashville. I was here for the last couple of days for a mastermind group that I'm a part of called Founders Board, and give me some great ideas, some good feedback. So I don't just tell you all that you should work to grow your business and invest in yourselves. I do it myself. So anyway, if you're here this morning, say good morning, my friends. Remember, if you're watching on the replay, don't forget, give me a hashtag replay in the comments. Don't forget to smash that like button, tag a fellow friend, share this post in a group. Remember, if you would like a quick text alert that I'm going live, you just want to be reminded, get the links. You can sign up for that at hmmr.io/reminder, or you can use this cool QR code. We just send out a quick morning text. You can, of course, unsubscribe at any time, and we let you know that I'm going live. I'm thinking about getting onto Instagram soon, and what do y'all think? Would you watch this on Instagram? Do you think more people would watch it on Instagram? I wonder if I could even do it on TikTok. I should probably push this harder. So anyway, remember that you can join me live each and every weekday morning. I appreciate all of you that you join me here. Let's talk to some of my friends that are here this morning. I like this. I'm going to use the iPad. I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to use this here. So I should have brought my glasses, though, damn it. Megan Lindberg, good morning. Allison Foy, Mike Morano, great to have you here, my friend. Let's see, we've got Nicole Semerad, good morning. Ron Siegel said, today is National Roast Leg of Lamb Day. Really? They have a day for that? Mallory Fotiadis, good morning. Michael Love. Ron Siegel, we need the Hammer blooper show. I don't ever make mistakes. I thought I made a mistake once, but I was wrong. It's funny. I would love to get the audio off this altogether. Let me see if I can't just turn the audio off. No, you don't see it. Even when you turn it down all the way, it's still, I can still hear it. It's funny how it does that. Anyway, good morning, Amy Blauser, Angela Walters, Michael Love, Angie Kuznia, Mike Brown, Kalmazik. It's great to have all of you here, my friends. Ron Siegel said Jerome will wait and be too late again. Yes, but that's his MO. Ron said video quality is good. Not sure the content. Ooh, roasted. Throwing shade. Shots fired. Michael Love said, yeah, I think so on IG. Nicole, IG and TikTok would be great. Ron said his audience is much smaller on IG Live. TikTok requires 1,000. I already have that, Ron. Duh. Like, I'm big time. Good morning, Randy Leonhardt. All right, so let's get to the good stuff, y'all. Let me go ahead and share you the screen, and let's see what we got to talk about here this morning. Like I said, today is Fed Day. So what does that mean? Well, to start things out, mortgage-backed securities are up on the day a whopping 6 basis points. I know that's not tremendous, but it's certainly better than a slap to the face, right? 10-year treasury yield, that's got to catch our attention. Let's kind of go over a little bit of this together. So I want to start with the 10-year today, a little different than normal. I wanted you to see that this 10-year, let me click on this and then it'll come back to that. There we go. Okay. So if we take a look here at the 10-year, take a look at how we have gotten resistance at this 100 at this 25 and 50-day moving average. Now, when it comes to the yield, we want this to go down versus when we look at pricing over here on these candlesticks for mortgage-backed securities for these over here, we want these to go up. However, over here, we want these to go down. And we are, butt up against this. Now, of course, the technical is going to take much more of a secondary role today because we have the actual here. I want to see what, oh, I can, so, all right. So now I can see what you see. Do you see what I see? And I can move this around. So hold on, let me bounce this a little bit. It's a little slow, just a little delay. Just a little. Okay. So taking a look here, right? So what we're looking at, we've got that 10-year treasury yield. Now, 10-year treasury is at 4.30. It would be wonderful if mortgage-backed securities, treasuries, if investors felt like the Fed is going to fight inflation and not cut, that would help bonds, because if the Fed holds their Fed funds rate higher, the idea is that will fight inflation. However, there's also an argument that the inflation is going to come from the tariffs, and the Fed has no control over that, whereas they normally do. It's kind of like that supply side issue we had after COVID. Now, I'm at this event with I'm going to say there were probably about 100 business owners here. Many of them bring in goods from other countries. They source from China. Now, Ron, in the past, you have talked about how some of these companies are going to react and they will source from other places, right? However, talking to some of my friends and new friends here, some of them that I met, we talked about how there is no other place for them to source from at this point, that China really has a lock on a lot of the manufacturing, especially for items that are very particular to an industry or hard to replicate in other places. So, but the good news is when we look at the articles this morning, let's go to Bloomberg's main page here. Hold on a minute. I think it actually shut it. There you go. So let me move this over. Hold on. Bear with me, y'all. I'm gonna get this. We're gonna get this right yet. Come on, Hammer. All right, close enough. Move this over just a hair. Okay. So when you take a look here, there is talk. Stock futures get a lift from U.S.-China trade talks, right? Wall Street investors hoping for de-escalation in the U.S.-China tariff trade standoff, despite bets the Fed Reserve will keep signaling its wait-and-see stance until there's more clarity on the impacts of Donald Trump's trade policies. So that does summarize the day in one paragraph very well. As the world's two largest economies prepare to hold their first confirmed trade talks, it's going to be in Switzerland, of all places. The heart of neutrality. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, will be over there. And there's another trade person over there. I don't remember who it was. I'll have to take a look and see. I'm sure it'll be listed on one of these. But markets are watching this, right? So the idea is there may be less of a concern about tariffs here. However, I think it was Wall Street Journal. I just saw it this morning where I was looking at it. Ford says they're going to raise the price of their cars made in Mexico. A couple of the different models that are out there, the Mustang, the Bronco Sport, they said they're going to be raising stickers by at least $2,000 this month because of tariffs. So, this stuff is hitting it, and it's already there. By the way, we kind of see it in the headlines when we talk about this stuff. Having these conversations I got to have the last couple of days was very interesting because, for example, I spoke to one person and she said that, she brought in a $500,000 order. The tariff on it was 70%. So, that tariff and it was due within a couple of weeks. You're talking $300,000. Just, they want that money. This is already hitting things. And what we were talking about was how that won't hit when she passes that along for another month or two, but it is going to hit. And so a lot of these things, we don't see it necessarily, and the headlines make it sound like it'll go away before we've actually had it. But companies are paying it now, and that means consumers are going to be paying it, and that's why everybody is so worried about an economic slowdown, and that's why everybody is looking for the Fed at this meeting, and Powell in his press conference at this meeting, after the meeting, to say, "Hey, we recognize that there's a problem here, and we're going to go ahead and proactively start cutting rates to spur the economy." And that's why, like Ron says, and of course Trump says, and everyone says too late. Powell is too late because they're going to sit and watch the data, watch the data. By the time they see it in the data, it's already happened, and then they react to it. Now, you can argue that that's a bad way to do it. I don't necessarily know I'd argue against that. If it were me, I think I would recognize where we're at. I think I would be cutting rates. What would you do if you were in the Fed? I wouldn't necessarily cut rates now, but I think I would. I think that if I were, Jerome Powell, if I were the head of the Fed, I would be trying to convince everybody to cut rates at the May meeting. I do think that we need to see things kind of get spurred on. I think that despite the data showing that things are doing okay, the real world consumers are struggling, and I think that the economy is going to struggle. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Everything hinges on consumer credit. If consumer credit dries up, we are going to be in a boatload of trouble. Reading your comments here. Tariffs are not due in a couple of weeks. They're collected before the product can clear customs. You cannot get the product without paying on the spot. All right. Well, I misunderstood, Ron, but actually, I think that they were able to pay the tariffs. Well, I see what you're saying, because they're not going to give you your goods if you don't pay the tariff. So, but anyway, there you go. Siegel corrected me, but $300,000 in extra money. What are my new friends doing to do if they cannot source in China, close down, or move to another country? They'll have to do something. Yeah, they'll pay the tariffs. That's the bottom line. We were talking about that. She's like, we'll just pay the tariffs. I mean, what are you going to do? She's like, and we'll raise the price of the product, and consumers will still buy it because for the same reason that she still buys it, because they're not going to get it somewhere else. And this is a particular item. It's what makes their product unique. There are some others in the space, but not enough. So that's the kind of thing that we're going to see there. So keep that in mind. But as far as how things are looking here, again, mortgage-backed securities up 7 basis points on the day. That means rate sheets are going to be a little bit better. Just slightly. I mean, yesterday when pricing came out, you can take a look here. When we look at say 10 a.m., we were down, it was down quite a bit, like 99.11. Oh, wow. There's actually quite a bit of difference here. And then we're up 99.40. So that's right. Yesterday, forgive me, I was in the sessions all day. So we did see quite an improvement yesterday. Did anyone get reprices better yesterday? I did not. I saw a handful, but I didn't see that many. But rate sheets this morning will be better, it looks like. Looks like you should see quite a bit better. Let's see what did yesterday. Yesterday they were saying it ended just slightly, so 6.88. So yeah, you'll see better pricing. Obviously not enough to see better rates, but better pricing. I did see an article here on Bloomberg. Mortgage applications climbed last week as rates eased. So just the number of apps for both purchases and refis were supposedly up here. And is that what y'all are seeing? I think consumers, even though we've seen some of the movement here, rates have really been kind of stable, right? They are where they are. High sixes, low sevens, mid sixes, high sixes for Govy stuff. That's really, and I was asked that question a lot at the last couple of days. Where are rates going to go? What do we think? What do I think is going to happen? I don't think rates are going to move up too high. I don't think we have to worry too much about, even if inflation does hit, I don't think that it's going to push rates really much higher from here. The problem is we're just not going to see them move lower until we see signs of a true economic weakness, and it's not stagflation. If we have economic weakness along with increasing inflation, that's going to drive prices up. That's not good for bonds. That's not good for mortgage rates. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm over here looking at your comments. Cutting now will help businesses if they don't have the liquidity to pay the tariffs. A lower finance charge might help in the short term. Yeah, I mean those are all valid points, Ron, for sure, for shizzle. Definitely. Will saw some reprices better. Amber Moser got some reprices better. Angie. Yeah. So on Monday, I had been into a locking stance because we were losing ground. We were negative, if y'all remember. Looking here at the candlesticks, right? Okay. We had come up right here. Take a look here. So this big red candlestick that you see, I'm trying to, if I jiggle the mouse, there it is. You get the arrow bigger. So I'm also jiggling the table, which means the camera's going nuts. Sorry. So anyway, if you take a look at that candlestick here, that was Thursday. Friday, Monday, we were losing ground, and it didn't look like we had any traction. So the advice had been to lock anything closing near term. Yesterday, I talked about go ahead and cautiously float. We pushed up against the 25-day moving average. See this green line? We did get some technical support from that is the 100-day moving average, and we've bounced back up. I don't think that this meeting is going to necessarily be bad for rates. I don't think Powell is going to say anything in this press conference to spook anybody. But remember, 2 p.m. Eastern time, we get the first data. The Fed will leave rates unchanged. Everybody is basically betting on 99% speculation that the rates are going to be unchanged. Expectation that we will hear a message of rates being cut in June is much lower. Before this, remember early last week, about a week ago, markets believed 2/3 believed we were going to see a rate cut in June. Now that's down to 1/3. So we're definitely going to see some movement here. If Powell comes out with a dovish message, meaning accommodative, possible rate cut, we'll see a little bit of a rally in bonds, and we'll see markets improve. We'll see rates improve. If he comes out with a hawkish message that the Fed is going to leave rates unchanged, I think we probably see things stay about where they are. I don't think there's a scenario here that really sees rates move higher, sees pricing get beaten. It's not going to be good for rates today, I don't think necessarily, but it's not going to be bad for rates either. We don't have to worry about, hey, but as always, this is speculation. So keep your finger on the lock button. Make sure you are prepared to go ahead and get everything dialed in and locked up at that point. And in case we do get something negative, you want to be ready for it. Man, this thing eats up battery on that iPad. Holy smokes. Derek says, I think OPEC is increasing production is going to help with the U.S. lower gas prices. Not enough to matter. I don't think it's enough to matter. Gas prices have taken a huge back seat in the economic thing. Remember back in I think it was 15, 16, we were really, mortgage rates were changing every day based on, the price of Brent crude oil. I was doing the written lock advice back then, and I just remember every day we talked about what was going on with oil prices. That's really not going to have much of an effect on things now. You may see gas prices drop a little bit, but I don't think it'll be enough to make a big difference, other than having Trump pound his chest on it. Ron, at some point, it might be wonderful if the Fed and any administration work together for the betterment of the people. I think they try to. I do think they try to. And it's okay for people to have different opinions on how things are. Again, Trump wants to see rates get cut. I don't know that I disagree with that. And I understand, though, why Powell and the Fed are holding back. They're very concerned. They were already caught out once with inflation. They don't want to get caught out again with inflation. So that's where a lot of that comes from. But as far as it comes today, again, just to summarize, you want to be cautiously floating to start the day. Cautiously, because we don't know what's going to happen with that Fed meeting this afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern time, you're looking for the first move. I would not necessarily bite on the first head fake. So in other words, if markets do start to lose ground, you need to lock anything closing near term or risk averse if that happens, and you want to get ahead of it. But other than that, I would continue floating. We get into Fed Chair Powell's press conference. It's usually around 3:15 Eastern time that we basically know where everything's going to settle. So the press conference starts at 2:30 Eastern. Half hour, 45 minutes into it, markets have made their reactions. They've gotten his first prepared statement. They've seen the first few questions come in, and they kind of form their opinion on where things are going to go. We tend to see things settle down at around 3:15. So depending on how that reaction is, I think there's a chance we could see some improvement today if Powell comes out with a dovish message. I don't think he's going to come out with a dovish message, though. I think that things will bounce around, and we'll see where they settle over the next couple of days. But overall, I don't think it's going to make a big difference for rates altogether. I think we're very much in the same range of where we're at. Rates could go up 10 basis points here, and we'll be at 6.98, which is right where we were at the end of April. And they could go down 10 basis points, and we would be at 6.78, which is right where we were at the end of April. So we're right smack in the middle of it. I don't think you're going to have to worry about seeing things move too much. It really just, as much as that's kind of an odd, frustrating-ish kind of a thing, it's also a very dependable kind of a thing, because for consumers, we don't have to worry about what we saw immediately after the tariffs earlier on, where rates jumped. And then one day, 1 week, we lost 200 basis points in bonds and rates were shooting up a half point, through that week. Thankfully, we're not there anymore. They settled back down. So that's probably where we are at today. Ron said Nick Timmeroff's question is generally very telling about what the Fed really wants us to know. Watch for his question. He's generally the fourth or fifth question. Yeah, if you watch the live, I like to watch it live. If you watch the live press conference, Ron Siegel is talking about Nick Timiraos from the Wall Street Journal, and there's talk that he has an inside game to Powell and that he is the Fed whisperer. So that question may be a question. They may kind of go a little further on how his question. It's almost like a softball or a setup question is kind of where Ron's going with that. But giddy up, Mr. Randy Tico. Great to see you, Cindy Pulliam. Thank you so much for joining me, all. We will see where today goes. Again, it should be a very calm, quiet kind of day for rates. I think we're all right with that. Let me know what you think in the comments. What do y'all think is going to happen today? Do you think that are you afraid? Do you have loans floating? Let me know in the comments. Do you have any loans floating? Are they farther out, short term? Do you think rates are going to improve? I think we have room to see rate sheets improve a little bit after we get through the Fed meeting. I don't think the Fed meeting is going to improve rates that much, but we do have rates. Rates could creep a little bit lower from here. We get the CPI data on the 13th next week. That's going to be a little bit better because this one, the May CPI data is actually April's data, and that's going to reflect more of the speculation of what tariffs were doing. So I think that if that CPI data comes in at expectations or even lower, that could be good for pricing and rates. But overall, rates are going to stay stable. This week, next week, I don't foresee any big moves on things. So, Dave Holland said, "You guys have loans?" I know it's like that line from Meet the. What was it? What was that movie where it had Sudeikis and Jennifer Aniston meet the. They pretended to be a family and they were moving drugs or something. But yeah, that's that one. Press conference, a great solution for insomnia and for those of us with the desire for quality entertainment. Will, I locked up 6 on Monday after trying to get people to lock last Tuesday and Wednesday. Wish they'd listened, but it worked with them to soften it. Yeah, and that's good. That's very good. We've improved a little bit since then, so rate sheets are a little bit better now. That's why Monday I was locking near term, but we were cautiously floating everything else, and we're floating in today to see where things go. So meet the Millers. Thank you, Nicole. That's what it was. Meet the Millers. Yeah, thank you, Allison Foyt, as well. You guys know which one I was talking about. And that's he says, "You guys have loans?" And there's a meme with his picture. You guys are getting paid. So anyway, all right. I hope you all are having a fantastic one. I will see you tomorrow. We'll talk all about what the Fed said. What did Powell say? What did they do? What are markets' reactions? We'll talk about rates again tomorrow. So hope you all have a fantastic one. I'm going to go ahead and lock this thing up, man. You guys have a great one. Bye-bye.